So Call of Duty Black Ops 6 has been out for the better part of the past month or so, and I've put in quite a bit of playtime. Most of that playtime has admittedly been in the zombies mode, however, and because of that I actually have quite a few thoughts on the mode. Generally, overall, I can definitely say that I've been having an absolute blast playing the game so far. It's been a ton of fun, but it is far from perfect, and there are some things I truly do think hold it back from kind of reaching that top tier level for sure. So I wanted to record this review mostly as kind of a time capsule, but also just to get my thoughts out on the mode before the new map Citadelle Des Morts comes out, bringing all kinds of fixes to the game that hopefully will address some of the stuff that I'm talking about today. So the way I'm going to structure this video is going to be covering the stuff that I enjoy about the mode first. Probably not going to go too far into depth on stuff like that. I'm going to save most of that in-depth stuff for the negative criticisms that I have towards the mode. And once we're concluded with the bad stuff in the video, I'll go ahead and round out the video with things that I want to see the mode include going forward, and hopefully Treyarch can adopt into this game as they continue on. So with that all being said, go ahead and sit back, relax. I have a feeling this video is probably going to be a little long. It's going to be a whole lot of rambling that hopefully I'll do a pretty good job editing down. But anyways, if you go on to enjoy this video, make sure to let me know by leaving a like and a comment down below. And if you want to see more content like this, feel free to subscribe. And without further ado, let's jump into what I like about this game, which is quite a lot. Now to start off the good stuff, let's go ahead and talk about what we can access before we even jump into the game. And I'm of course talking about the loadout system. Now, me personally, when it comes to this new modern style of zombies, my opinions on the loadout system are kind of mixed. On one hand, I do think it works surprisingly well with this current new iteration of zombies, so I don't really have too many complaints there, but most of my complaints come down to me preferring kind of the old style. But either way, the stuff that we have here in Black Ops 6 is actually really good, and it feels like an iterated version upon Cold War systems, which, admittedly, that's kind of how I describe a lot of Black Ops 6's gameplay. Similar to Cold War, you start off by selecting both a primary weapon, which can be any weapon to choose from, assault rifles, SMGs, pistols, shotguns, whatever, as well as a field upgrade, 4 of which are returning from previous games, those being the Energy Mine, Frenzied Guard, Aether Shroud,
Be right back.
and Healing Aura, and a brand new one that is specific to Cold War, which is Dark Flare. Now, Dark Flare, when it first came out, admittedly, it wasn't that very good. But with the patch that came out at the start of Season 1, it actually made Dark Flare a pretty viable option, and I actually have a lot of fun using that. It's a very offensively designed field upgrade, so that's kind of the player I like to play as. So, ultimately, I really do like Dark Flare now. I definitely don't think it's the worst like it used to be when the game came out. But overall, you got 5 to choose from, with more to come as the seasons go on. And those are the similarities that are shared between Cold War and Black Ops 6's loadout. However, with Black Ops 6, like I said earlier, it is an expanded and enhanced version of what we got in Cold War. You're also able to select, for the first time ever in a Black Ops game anyways, a dedicated melee slot. Now this doesn't only apply to zombies, it actually also applies to multiplayer as well. And it functions similarly to the COD World War II system that also had a dedicated melee weapon. However, in that COD, it was always the shovel, unless you got a map-specific melee weapon. Here in Black Ops 6, you're able to choose from any melee weapon you can get your hands on in both multiplayer and in zombies. At launch, it was just the knife and the baseball bat, but then eventually later on, they added the power drill to the game, as well as later on in the seasons, they're also going to be adding the cleaver. This kind of makes it so that you essentially have permanent mule kick in your loadout, where you can have 3 weapons, but at any given time, that one extra weapon will be a melee weapon, which I kind of like. It lets you kind of switch up playstyles on the fly if you so choose, and I do think that that is a pretty cool addition to the game. Alongside that new addition, you're also able to select a lethal and a tactical grenade to bring into the loadout as well. Now this is unlike Cold War, where in that game you had to pick up all the equipment from zombies, but the caveat to that was you were able to get equipment very commonly from zombies. They dropped pretty commonly, in all honesty. The balance system here in Black Ops 6 is mostly in the sense that zombies will drop less of that equipment naturally, but you're able to spawn in with what you'd like. And beyond that, the final new addition to the loadout system, and a perfect segue into our next segment on this good section, are Gobblegums. You get to select a Gobblegum pack similarly to Black Ops 3. However, unlike Black Ops 3, you can actually make multiple packs and then mix and choose them in-game rather than having multiple packs to choose from before you go in. And the differences don't end there exactly. The Gobblegum system here in Black Ops 6 kind of works as a mixture of the Black Ops 4 Elixir system and the Black Ops 3 Gobblegum system, where the Black Ops 3 Gobblegums that were brought over as elixirs in Black Ops 4 were less powerful. Those variations in Black Ops 4 are pretty much as powerful as they are here in Black Ops 6. However, the means of getting them in a match is the same as it was back in Black Ops 3, where you had to go to a machine, hit it, get a free spin, and then you can get whatever you want. Something that is new to Black Ops 6 as well with the Gobblegum system is the ability to actually hold on to and use whichever one you want at a given time. You can hold up to 3 at a time, and you can pop all 3 at once if you so feel like it. This addition is actually really useful and adds some synergy between certain Gobblegums that you otherwise wouldn't have really been able to do before, and you would have to rely on co-op. This is mostly a really big benefit to solo players, I'd say, as you don't have to rely on either really good luck from the machine or a teammate getting the Gobblegum you need. Another change from the Gobblegum system here in Black Ops 6 is how you actually acquire them. Back in Black Ops 3, you had Liquid Divinium, which was their own specific currency that you could either earn in-game or buy from the store using COD points, and you would then go to Dr. Monty's factory, and then you'd gamble for it. It was its own whole thing there. But in Black Ops 6, it is earned strictly in the match, and it's given out randomly depending on the rarity of the Gobblegum. You have rare Gobblegums, which are going to be the most common you'll probably get when you end up getting them in game. Then you have epic, legendary, and ultra tier, as well as whimsical tiers that you can only really earn by doing exfils. The higher the round you exfil, the greater amount of whimsicals you end up getting. So it essentially just kind of skips that nonsense of having to get the Liquid Divinium and then go spin a random thing to get some stuff out of the Dr. Monty's factory. It kind of just skips that part and just does the randomizing in-game for you. And as well as that, unlike earning Liquid Divinium, which was kind of random in Black Ops 3, I think it was kind of dependent on points that you spent, and there was like a limit to how many you could get. Here in Black Ops 6, it is strictly time-based. It happens within 24-minute segments. Once every 24 minutes, you are guaranteed to get a Gobblegum. Ultimately, it is strictly time-based, which I absolutely love. It incentivizes players to continue playing the game rather than farming up 2 or 3 Liquid Divinium at a time and then just ending the game, if that's what you did back in the day. Now, you are admittedly able to buy Gobblegums from the stores as well. However, they are changed in a way that I think is much better in the sense that you actually know what you're buying from the store. For example, the most popular bundle that they shove in your face is this $10 bundle that gives you one of each Ultra and Legendary Gobblegum, which would give you 12 in total. Unlike Black Ops 3, for example, you would get enough Liquid Divinium for $10 in that game to spin for at least 21 Gobblegums in that game, but you weren't guaranteed anything good, especially now with all kinds of pretty silly Gobblegums in that game that don't really do much. Your chances of getting those really good Gobblegums are quite low. So ultimately, I definitely think just the guaranteed good Gobblegums for the same price as the lottery that you're essentially going into with the Black Ops 3 system is so much better. And I've seen a lot of people online engaging in discourse with this. I find it so silly. I think it's just straight up a improvement across the board. Speaking of an improvement across the board, let's go ahead and talk about the general gameplay, which I can pretty much describe as Cold War expanded and enhanced, or essentially the uncompromised vision of what we could have gotten back in Cold War if they had, I don't know, 4 years to develop the game like this one. Returning stuff from Cold War such as weapon rarities, pack-a-punch tiers, similar perks and stuff like that, all make their way into the game here, and they work just as well as they did back in that game. Now, I have reservations for sure about which I prefer, this new modern era or the older Zombies titles, but ultimately speaking, what we have here and what we got is a vested improvement on an already pretty decent foundation that was laid out in Cold War. The game is also generally harder than Cold War, which was a massive critique of that game, that it was just too easy to play once you kind of got the upgrade systems going. That game ultimately was just a little too easy, even for casual players, which wasn't necessarily a bad thing. It was still a good time, but it could just lead to a lot of matches getting a little too boring. Here in Black Ops 6, the difficulty is ramped up a bit for sure, and ultimately it does lead to more engaging content for sure, at least at a player of my level. I actually find myself kind of getting into trouble a lot more often than I ever did back in Black Ops Cold War, which I absolutely adore. I enjoy engaging myself in a bit of a challenge every now and again. Of course, similarly to Cold War, armor also returns. It's slightly different, and trust me, we will talk about armor a little later here in the video. But ultimately speaking, I still do like the armor system. I like the protection it offers, and there are some things in the game that can maybe offer some salvation to those who prefer the shield system back in the day, which I think leads us perfectly into talking about the best new addition to the gameplay systems of Black Ops 6 by far, the augments. Augments are essentially the Ethereum upgrade systems of Cold War, but way more improved. Ultimately, what these things do essentially is they do the exact same things as a lot of the Ethereum upgrade systems, but instead of getting all of them, you have to pick and choose. Now, you can get augments for perks, ammo mods, and field upgrades. You can't get them for weapon classes like you could in Cold War, but I think that's totally fine. And here in this game, you have 3 major and 3 minor augments to unlock for every single perk, field upgrade, and ammo mod. Now, these are entirely optional, and admittedly, depending on the perk, ammo mod, field upgrade, some of the major and minor augments aren't that impressive as others, but some of them drastically shake up your gameplay when you acquire that perk or whatever with said augment on. For example, Juggernog got quite a few really cool and interesting major augments. One just gives you straight up a bonus of 50 extra health, while the other makes it to work sort of like a pseudo widow's wine, where once a piece of your shield breaks, you will essentially concuss a large horde of zombies around you for a few seconds. It's pretty useful, in all honesty, and there's even an augment that basically turns the shield and armor that you have into a zombie shield from the older Call of Duty games, where you will take complete damage negation in the back. It will only damage the armor, but you will take full damage if you get hit in the front. And I love that it's in the game, but I also think that it is a testament to just how much the shield would not work in these modern Call of Duty games, as you die incredibly quickly in those higher rounds when zombies are moving crazy fast and hitting even faster. You will die incredibly quickly if you decide to use Turtle Shell. And these major augments tend to pair very nicely with the minor augments, which don't do too much to shake up the gameplay as their name would imply, but they really do a good job at synergizing with those major augments with some of the best perks or whatever, usually offering minor augments to synergize with multiple major augments and vice versa. And the best part about this augment system is that you can choose to engage with it however you'd like to. Me personally, I don't find any of the major augments for Energy Mine, for example, to be all that useful in comparison to just its base effect, so ultimately, I decide not to run anything on it, and that's totally fine. You don't have to. It's a wonderful system. You can turn all the augments off for all you care, and the game will still function no problem as intended. I think that is a brilliant new decision, and it ultimately addresses one of the biggest problems with the Ethereum upgrade system back in Cold War, which was that once you acquired them, you couldn't turn them off, and it just made the game kind of exponentially easier with every single upgrade you got. So yes, I absolutely adore the augment system from top to bottom, and ultimately, throughout the rest of the year, as we keep getting new ammo mods, perks, and field upgrades, we're going to continue to get guaranteed 6 new augments for each one, 3 major and 3 minor. I love that system. Speaking of things that I love, another big criticism, honestly my biggest criticism about Cold War was the lack of a playable crew. Well, Black Ops 6 addresses that in spades. We finally have a playable crew back in the game, and honestly, I think that they are a lot of fun, but also not perfect. Surprisingly, I've actually seen quite a bit of disdain from some people about these characters, saying that they're just not all that interesting, but at the same time, they haven't really gotten anything to really do quite yet, admittedly, so I only see them getting even better, and I'm ready to stick with them for the long haul. As we saw back in 2018, the Chaos crew started off, honestly, way worse than this crew for sure, but by the time Ancient Evil came out, people were absolutely on board. So once these guys get better dialogue and better things to say off one another, they're only going to improve even more as these voice actors get into their roles and kind of meld into them a lot better than how they've started out, which honestly isn't that bad to me. I think that they are really good, and there are some really good lines from both the playable characters that are specific to zombies as well as the operators, which you canonically play as in Liberty Falls. Particularly, this line from Weaver is really good. I'll go ahead and play it for you.
Play with fire, get burned. I learned that the hard way.
not just the delivery about this line is something that I really like, as well as that it's just the storyline implications. In case you aren't aware about the lore, Weaver and Samantha Maxis are directly responsible for killing Richtofen's wife and son in a house fire gone wrong. So hearing him say that line after getting a napalm burst kill is really, really good, and it's also just delivered really, really well. It's definitely one of Weaver's best quotes. And like I said, the operators have some great lines too. That includes Adler, who not only says train go boom from Black Ops 3 for some reason, I don't know why, but he has probably my favorite line out of any of the operators, which is,
mind if I call you Belle?
as a big fan of Cold War's campaign, I really appreciated that, 100%.
Here. Mind giving me a light?
And honestly, the character bickering between the playable characters and the characters in our heads, which in this case are Strauss and Peck. They're not really in our heads, but the characters who are talking to us, over the headset. Yeah, those guys. The bickering between them is really funny, and I do like that.
I've seen my share of secret labs. Believe me, there's a reason why they're always located far the fuck away from everything.
It's good that even an imbecile such as yourself understands why such a decision is prudent.
So these screaming fuckheads are just gonna keep coming? And to be clear, I'm not talking about Strauss and Peck.
And honestly, there's some really good conversationals between any of these characters. In particular, Maya, who is the new character added to this game, and Gray have some really good dialogue between each other that I really like. I think they bounce off each other very nicely, and so do, surprisingly, Carver and Weaver. Honestly, they also get along really well and have some pretty good lines together.
Don't take this the wrong way, but you don't seem the trusting type. So why Peck?
He's not so bad once you get past all the not so good parts. Hell, you'd still be locked up if he hadn't hired me. Then again, I'd have said no if my brother weren't here.
Now, admittedly, I do think a couple of characters aren't as interesting, and there are definitely some clunkers for delivery. I think, sadly, Weaver, who was actually voiced by the same voice actor, Gene Farber, who did it all the way back in Black Ops 1, I just don't think he was given very good lines in this map, if I'm being completely honest, or at least on Terminus. He was just given really lines, a lot of expletives and a lot of Richtofen, a lot of Richtofen. He does not shut up about him. And it's silly at first, but it does definitely become grating. So I absolutely think that as he's given better dialogue going forward, that it's only going to improve from there. And probably the biggest disappointment as of right now is Carver. I just don't think he has anything to really say or do. He has a couple good lines for sure, but like in relevance to the story, it's kind of But that doesn't detract from it in any major way. It's just a little bit of a criticism. And in all honesty, all those criticisms can kind of be written off because I'm just glad that we have a playable crew again. I cannot stress enough just how important that is to just giving that feeling back to zombies. To not make it feel like we're just playing multiplayer or Warzone with zombies, and it actually gives that character back and that personality that has been such a big problem since Cold War. It's just so nice to have them, and I'm glad they're here no matter how clunky some of their dialogue is. And finally, at the start of Season 1, we actually got Directed Mode, which is this brand new mode added to essentially guide new players through these Easter eggs and give them some rewards for doing it as well. Now, me, as someone who's played this game for quite a long time, or this mode anyways, for quite a long time, I don't really need this, and we'll talk about this mode a little later and why it's kind of not doing what it's really supposed to be doing, but it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, I think it is a plus that it's there, and it does release weeks after players have discovered the Easter egg, so it's not like it's releasing at the same time, thank God. And ultimately, I do think that was a really good and the correct decision to go with. Anything that they can add to bring new players into the mold will absolutely be welcome with open arms, at least for me. Now, moving on from the general gameplay stuff that I enjoy, I just wanted to talk on a couple of map-specific things that I think are really good, starting with Liberty Falls. Ultimately, it does what it was said it was going to do. It is an easy, simple survival map that is really fun. It's actually, according to the COD pod, it actually has a playtime ratio of 2-to-1 in comparison to Terminus, which doesn't surprise me very much. I feel like most casual players are absolutely going to lean towards Terminus, and anyone who is doing weapon camo grinding is absolutely going to look to Liberty Falls. In fact, my own playtime probably is reflective of that playtime as well. I think I've played Liberty Falls 2-to-1 compared to Terminus because I went ahead and obviously, as you can see, grinded and got the Nebula camo. most of that time was spent on Liberty Falls unless I had to kill like parasites. So I think that would just kind of go to show just how much of an impact this map has had, which is pretty surprising given how its reception was pretty poor from the community from what we saw, at least from COD Next, which I also think was entirely warranted. So it's pretty interesting to see that dichotomy, but it is a pretty good survival map. As well as that, the jet gun on the map is just, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to see it in its overpowered glory. It's so much fun to see it. It obviously has an ammo cooldown similar to how it worked back in Black Ops 2, but it doesn't break like it used to back in Black Ops 2, which is a big plus, and it's just a lot of fun. It also adds to the easier factor of Liberty Falls for sure. As well as that, the main guy who is talking to us over the comms in this map, Blanchard, he's pretty charismatic, he's pretty good. He has some pretty good lines actually. I think most people know about Dennis Riffle, Church groundskeeper, good guy. I think most people know about him because of Blanchard, having heard it thousands of times, I'm sure, by this point. But ultimately, I do definitely like his VA and his performance in the map. And finally, for Liberty Falls, the side Easter eggs add so much sauce to this map. Ultimately, I think doing the side Easter eggs on this map is way more entertaining than doing most of the actual main quest. They are really fun between the bowling alley side Easter egg and the Aetherella trap Easter egg. I mean, this stuff is just, chef's kiss. I sincerely hope that we follow this kind of interactive side Easter egg quest stuff going forward that can actually actively help the player out. I really enjoy that, and I hope that this and a side quest on Terminus, which we'll talk about here in a second, are like the baseline for side quests going forward. Speaking of Terminus, just to talk about on that real quick, it serves as the more complex map to Liberty Falls, the 5 to Kino der Toten, if you will, right? Or the Shadows of Evil to the Giant. Now, obviously, it's not nearly as complex as something like Shadows of Evil, but it does work to help benefit more of the hardcore crowd like myself. And I think it is a pretty good map overall. It's a pretty good complex map. It's not crazy complex for sure, but it definitely is harder and offers more of a challenge than something like Liberty Falls. It also offers a ton of varied gameplay as well. And ultimately, I just love the vibe and the setting of the map. It's just something that I really do enjoy. I'm a big sucker for like cloudy days and like rainy maps. So to have this map be set kind of like in the eye of an active typhoon is just, it hits me right in my sweet spot if I gotta be honest. And as I mentioned earlier, the banter between the crew on this map is really, really good, whether that be between themselves or the people over the radio. It is exceptional. Now, as for the wonder weapon specific to this map, we have the Beam Smasher, which I really like. I like the quest you go to acquire it, as well as its effect as well. I do just wish it was a little more powerful, admittedly. It does feel kind of just a little, I don't know, weak as you get into those higher rounds, but that's kind of not the important part of that wonder weapon. Its support role with its alternate fire is ultimately what I really love about this wonder weapon. It kind of becomes essentially like a pseudo support, not just for yourself, but for your teammates as well, as when you hit any kind of zombie, whether it's a normal zombie, a special zombie like a mangler, or the elite zombie like the amalgam, it will cause a debuff and slow them down that will basically force them to take way more damage, and it helps deal with a lot of, I suppose, overwhelming situations. I really like it. I think it is a really, really good wonder weapon, at least in its support role. I do just wish that it had better offensive capabilities. Now, similarly to Liberty Falls, I also like quite a bit of the side Easter eggs, mostly the Cursed Talisman Easter egg. This is probably what I would actually consider to be where I like the baseline for a lot of the major side Easter eggs to be going forward. There's an actual bit of a quest-like element to it. You gotta go scavenge some stuff, you gotta go kill some HVTs. It's really well designed, and the reward is pretty damn unique as it gives you a permanent double points, which can stack with a double points drop to give you quadruple points, but if you get hit, you end up losing a pretty sizable chunk of money. So it kind of becomes this giant game of keep away from the zombies, even more so than it normally is. And I really like that. I think that that is such a fun and inventive Easter egg reward that actually benefits the player in a major way. And speaking of Easter eggs, the main quest of Terminus. Now, admittedly, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but ultimately I think it is a pretty okay experience that is enhanced greatly by the final boss against Patient 13. Now, this final boss fight genuinely elevates this Easter egg to like good status on its own, as it might be the best Treyarch boss fight ever made, or at least in the top 3, for sure. It's chaotic, intense. It has multiple phases with like telegraphed moves that the player can react to in a good amount of time. It genuinely has, pardon my phrase here, the fucking sauce. All right, that's that just we haven't really seen from like almost any of like the Cold War Easter egg boss fights, even the Forsaken, and honestly even the Legion. I think this Easter egg boss is hands down probably my favorite from Treyarch. If not my favorite, then like easily top 3. Now, as for the rest of the Easter egg, I do really like actually like the first 40% of the Easter egg. Everything leading up to and doing Nathan's mini boss fight is exceptional. I love it. Usually I would consider part of that Easter egg as acquiring the Beam Smasher by doing its side quest. I consider that to be part of the Easter egg, as that's what I do every time. You don't have to do it. You can use a Wonder Bar or get really lucky from the box and just get it like that. But everything between the start and when you kill Nathan is fantastic. Everything in between Nathan and the boss fight, however, well, we'll talk about that a little later. Now, before we wrap things up here in the good section, I'll go ahead and just talk about a couple of the little things that I like about the game so far overall. First of all, the save and quit feature is fantastic. If you don't know about this, you have the ability as a solo player to save and quit a match. Now, when you do that, it'll start you back when you go back into it on the round you started out on, and it's really, really useful for people who have to go, like, who maybe want to go to high rounds but have a life. Things get in the way. Unfortunately, you can't pause infinitely. You can only pause for 15 minutes, which is a problem for sure. But having the ability to save and quit if you know it's going to take longer than that is genuinely a plus. And it's something that I think we could have used years ago. And I'm just glad that it's here in the game now. As well as that, the game offers tons to grind for, whether that be the Nebula Camo, which will not take you a short amount of time at all. This will take you quite a bit of playtime. Trust me, I know. Or that maybe being the challenges that are just specific to zombies, including prestige challenges. There are so many things to actively strive for that, as someone who likes to grind the game out, I really appreciate that. As well as that, prestige does return to the game. That this isn't a zombie-specific thing. This applies to both zombies and multiplayer, as your level is shared. However, for the first time ever, there are prestige rewards to go after, and a lot of the prestige rewards are actually zombies themed, which I really love. Whether that be weapon blueprints or character skins specific to our zombies crew. In fact, 3 of our zombies crew, Weaver, Maya, and Gray, all get skins from prestige unlocks, which I think is really cool. As well as that, we are running on the Modern Warfare engine. This isn't anything new. This has been the case since Vanguard Zombies, but it goes without saying that this game looks and sounds fantastic, specifically on Terminus. I think the game looks gorgeous on the map, at least to me. Now, art direction is something else entirely. I don't mind the art direction on Terminus, but Liberty Falls, I think, leaves a lot to be desired on that front, but that was never really the point that they were going for, so it's all right. Art direction is an argument that I could definitely see some people making. But for me personally, I really enjoy the visuals of this game. And the audio design, I mean, I'm so glad the audio team is getting their flowers this year because they really do deserve it. They've killed it every single game. So to start seeing them get the recognition they deserve is just so nice to see. And finally, of course, speaking of audio design, Kevin Sherwood is back. He's making bangers. We got 2 new songs, 1 for each map, obviously. Can You Hear Me from Terminus is a really good song. I like it, but man, oh man, Destroy Something Beautiful, unironically, might be a top 5 zombie song of all time, and I'm not even exaggerating. This, to me, no hyperbole, is the new Gen's 115. This song kicks so much ass. You know what? Roll that shit. You know, I'm looking at how long I've been recording my voice so far. It's what? 31 and a half minutes? I'm going to edit that down for sure, but ugh. We haven't even gotten to the bad yet. Speaking of, we're on to the bad section now. Not everything about this game can be sunshine and rainbows, and unfortunately, I do have some criticisms. Now, on the plus side, some of these criticisms are actually actively being addressed and will be addressed come Season 1 Reloaded here in a couple of days as of me recording this video. So because of that, I'll just go ahead and bring up those criticisms first for the sake of this, again, being sort of like a time capsule as to what the game was like at launch. And then we'll go ahead and discuss some criticisms that are still prevalent and haven't really been mentioned quite yet from Treyarch. One of the biggest problems that I've had that have actively kept me from wanting to do high rounds are the special zombie round lengths. Those being like the vermin rounds or the termite? Termite? Am I fucking... Oh my god, am I stupid? Parasite rounds. I remembered. It took like a minute, but parasite rounds. Yeah, those things have been egregiously long, and they would only exponentially get longer to the point that if you were trying to get to round 100, some of those rounds would last like upwards of 10 minutes, and any rounds like that past round 100 could last upwards of half an hour. That is stupid, considering that there really isn't much to worry about because they die really quickly. It was really annoying, to say the least, and thankfully Treyarch is actively going to fix that come Season 1 Reloaded, which is a positive. Another big issue with the game involves manglers, mostly their spawn rates. Now, we will talk more about manglers here a little later, but ultimately, their spawn rates are being addressed. Now, what they're doing is essentially making it so that the amount that spawns will kind of scale up later than it does now, which means essentially instead of having 4 spawn at the same time at the start of round 31, instead of that, we're going to probably get maybe 2 at a time at most, and kind of just gently ramp that up until round 100 where that cap completely comes off and they can spawn as many as they like. As well as that, they're also making them easier to kill, or at least easier to deal with their ranged attack, making their arm cannon much easier to shoot off, which is a good thing. I think part of their egregious annoyance is just how annoying those ranged attacks are. However, I do only think that's like addressing half of the issue. That's like only half the solution that I was hoping for. Admittedly, I was just kind of hoping that they would space the manglers out. I never really had an issue with having 4 manglers spawn in on round 31. My issue was that they'd all spawn in at the same time. I assumed that when they saw that criticism, they would end up just kind of spacing them out and forcing players to maybe do this funny little thing called target priority, where they see a mangler at the start of the round, and they're probably going to want to try to take that out as quickly as possible, because if they don't, another mangler will not be very far behind, and then you have to start juggling 2, and then that can become a problem. But spawning like 4 at the same time is not fun to deal with, and it gives the player no time to actually do that and focus on a mangler and kill one when they have to deal with 3 others shooting beams at them from God knows where. Oh my god. But at the very least, I will admit, I am glad that we are getting at least a spawn rate decrease. That is a bonus. I just hope that it is made a little better going forward still. So with that being said, there are still some problems that I have with the game that Treyarch hasn't really addressed yet, and these aren't even problems that I myself only have. I think generally the community also agrees on this. And speaking of manglers from earlier, let's go ahead and just talk about the special enemy reuse, that being the Abomination and the Mangler. As well as, screw it, we'll talk about the Amalgam here as well, but we'll talk about the Mangler and the Abomination first. I'm going to be honest, 4 years, now granted, you guys were working on Vanguard, you're working on Modern Warfare Zombies, so I get it. You weren't entirely not busy for those 4 years working on your own game, but come on. Really? Like, we're really going to reuse the Mangler again? When you brought it back in Firebase Z, I'm like, oh, that's fun. That's fun to see them again, and they were actually pretty fun in Firebase Z and in Cold War as a whole. But, why? Why bring them back for the 3rd straight game, or almost 3rd straight game? 3 of the past 4 games you've worked on, in Zombies anyways, you have brought back the Mangler. Why? Why? Let's do something new. Abominations. Again, 3 of the past 4 games. Why? Why are we including these things again? I don't get it. It kind of, I don't want to say lazy, because that's far from it. I do want to say, though, it's just lack of creativity. I'm not sure if that's like a conscious decision, or if it's a decision from Activision to be like, hey, look, players will recognize this. Let's have them do it. I don't know. But either way, I do find it to be just really disappointing. And the one new special, or I guess elite zombie that we do get is the Amalgam. And I'm going to be fully transparent. This guy sucks. He is not a well-designed enemy at all. You could essentially replace his name with Bullet Sponge the Boss. And that's essentially what you're going to be getting out of him. It is just shooting him over and over and over again with not a crazy amount of feedback coming from the boss himself. Even if you are hitting his weak spots, he doesn't like stagger, he doesn't stop, he kind of just like moves around a little bit, but still runs at you at pretty much the same speed. It feels like I'm just shooting into a bullet sponge and he's just eating my shots. Wait, he is just eating all that shit up. He does not care. And I just don't think he's a well-designed boss at all. And it's really disappointing that he's going to be on Citadelle Des Morts. But whatever, man. Whatever. Now, moving away from special enemies for a little bit, let's go ahead and talk about a big thing within the community that is a problem, that I'd say. And that is currently how weapon scaling works. Now, I don't think it's a secret that by the time you get your gun to the highest rarity and the highest pack-a-punch you can get it to, now I'm a pretty good player. I can get that for one gun between rounds, maybe 22 to 25 on average, right? For the average player, it might take them a little longer, maybe the upper 20s. By the time they get that gun to that level, it only takes a few rounds before most of the weapons in the game just completely fall off. That's another problem with kind of round 31 on, is that your guns just aren't really doing a whole lot, and that also extends to all the wonder weapons not named the jet gun, as pretty much past round 40 to 45, they also become incredibly useless, which is pretty surprising and also just kind of disappointing. I don't hate the idea of relying on a wonder weapon. I think that gives credence to the name wonder weapon. However, just making them pitifully weak again, even though we kind of got what in my opinion was a much more fun option out of Cold War, is not very fun. And I do think that there is a sweet spot to be found for sure. And I think the way they're going to do that is ultimately just to push back the health increase past like round 30 into the round 40s, so your guns can actually be viable for more than a few rounds. Or they could just generally make all the weapons more powerful in zombies. I don't really know, but I think it would make more sense for them to just address the enemy health rather than addressing each weapon individually. And this goes hand in hand with the point system. Let's talk about the point system. And also, I'm going to just bring up Melee Macchiato real quick, which is, it's a pretty disappointing perk, in all honesty, but I'm only bringing it up because the way the point system works in this game is incredibly flawed, where it prioritizes you to get headshots on zombies as the best way of making points. You get 90 points for a regular zombie kill, you get 105 for a melee kill, and then 115 for a headshot. Why add a melee-focused perk if you're gonna make using a melee weapon the least, or like the second least efficient option, or like the less efficient option than just shooting the zombie in the head? It blows my mind. Not to mention just the perk itself has this weird delay when it punches. I hate it. They need to get rid of that. This perk could actually be just genuinely like a good perk if they, for one, made melee points go up, and two, made it so that their weird ass delay when you hit the melee button and actually punch goes away. It is so weird feeling. And the biggest problem I think with the point system is ultimately if you go down or if you bleed out and come back, it is nice to be able to have a pretty high rarity weapon and a decent amount of points to go buy some perks and buy some pack-a-punch, sure, but it's never gonna be enough. They do not give you enough points to fully upgrade a weapon, for example. Having a pack-a-punch tier 2 weapon on any round past round 25, it's a joke. Even if it's legendary, it doesn't matter. There are maybe like 5 weapons out of the whole entire weapon pool that might be viable at that point. Everything else is straight gutter trash. And since you don't get points on hits anymore, like it's been since Cold War really, and you can only get points per kill, it just becomes this cycle at that point of you don't have enough points to upgrade, so you have to keep buying ammo. And because you keep buying ammo for the weapon, you still don't have enough points to upgrade. You're not really getting, you might get all those points back just to spend them again on ammo. It just becomes this vicious cycle. And I wish I could drop points to my team, kind of like COD World War II did way back in the day, where maybe I have like 100,000 points that I'm sitting on, and my teammate, who doesn't have anything, is left just kicking rocks. It's so incredibly frustrating, and it feels like the point system just kind of becomes at odds with itself. Now, if they make weapons better and stronger, maybe that will fix the points issue at the moment, but from where I stand, it's just an incredibly frustrating system. And it basically encourages players to use the wonder weapon or traps. It can lead to some pretty miserable high rounds. Speaking of, high rounds in this game are incredibly dull. I mean, so boring. The current strat for high rounds in this game is to just spam support streaks. Now, support streaks were a thing in Cold War. You could use them for your high rounds as well. I actually really loved going for high rounds in Cold War, but admittedly, I don't even like going for high rounds in pretty much any zombies games, maybe besides Cold War, because it's less a test of skill and far more a test of just how patient you are, and it kind of funnels players into the safest strategy where you really don't have the highest risk of dying, but it is going to be an incredibly tedious and long process. That's why I liked Cold Wars. Even though it was a lot easier, it was a lot more entertaining, it was a lot more fun. You could use different weapons, and it wasn't just funneling you into doing the same thing every time. There was some variety there. In Black Ops 6, it's just use the support streak, and then go spend some salvage on the same support streak to use it again. When the game came out, if you killed a Mangler or an elite zombie with that support streak, whether that be a chopper gunner or more likely a mutant injection, if you used that and killed them with it, they would drop support streaks again. So you could just kind of chain those together if you really felt like it. They removed that pretty quickly, but it still has not addressed the actual issue, which is just the high rounds here in this game are incredibly dull. And this is coming from someone who doesn't even care that much about high rounds. It is definitely not just me saying this. High rounders in the community right now aren't really all that satisfied with the state of high rounds. Now, you can actually get to round 999. They increased that cap. I think that's awesome. But besides like maybe a couple dozen people on planet Earth, who in the hell wants to do that? It will take so long, like hundreds of hours, days of playing, and just using mutant injections the whole time. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. And that is something I hope to see addressed going forward. I would rather the round 100 be much easier and more fun than the obnoxious grind that we have right now. And ultimately, I don't know where the solution lies. I don't know where the middle ground is on this one, if I'm being completely honest, because if you make round 100s easy, you essentially make Cold War again, and you make the whole entire game too easy, which would be a problem, I think. So I don't know how to make that better, and that's why I don't envy game design in the slightest. Another criticism that I brought up earlier, and is definitely worth mentioning, is the armor system. Now, I mentioned earlier as well that I like the armor system a lot. I enjoy the 360 degrees of protection that it gives you. I think it's definitely more effective than just having a zombie shield on your back. However, I liked it all right in Cold War. In this game, we have armor plates, similarly to the last game, Modern Warfare Zombies. Now, I was under the impression with that game that was just going to be a one and done thing. It was just going to be that and that's it. But they brought it back again. And I didn't really like it in Modern Warfare Zombies to begin with, and I especially don't like it here in round-based. It interferes and oftentimes just impedes on the general gameplay. In the higher rounds, it oftentimes feels like I'm just hitting my G key on my keyboard or like my replay button way more than my reload button, which is just not, I don't think that's the right way we should go about it. I don't think that's the correct decision at all. I don't think I should be hitting those keys more than the reload key, you know? But at least to me, I definitely feel like that's what ends up happening, and it's never not infuriating. So it really is just a double-edged sword in the sense that I like the armor as like a system of protection, and again, like with the like different plates for the shield, or different plates for the armor rather, it goes hand in hand with something like the reactive armor augment on Juggernog, but it's just I think a little too frustrating actually, and I don't think casual or hardcore players really like it, because hardcore players like myself, it impedes on gameplay for us. It doesn't feel like COD. It feels like it's just a byproduct of this current Warzone era. It just kind of takes away the personality from zombies. And for the casual side, they don't really care about all that other stuff. They'll just care about the fact that it impedes on their gameplay and their enjoyment of the game. They probably don't care as much, to be fair, but I, honest to God, don't think this system is going to be liked by anyone, really. So yeah, How I feel about the armor system is just simply, I like what it does to protect me, I just hate the replating mechanic. Now finally, earlier in the video, I did bring up directed mode and how I think that is a really cool thing to introduce new players to the idea of these Easter egg quests and show that there is more to do than just shooting zombies. However, most players, myself included, don't use directed mode for that. They use directed mode to camo grind. I'm actually really interested to see the stats for directed mode here and see just how many people are actually using it to complete quests versus just getting camos easier. I'm not innocent on this in the slightest. I absolutely used directed mode to get plenty of camos in this game. Not all of them for sure, but all of my Afterlife camos, pretty much almost all of them, came from directed mode because I just could not be fucked. So yeah, I think that that's maybe not a bad thing. It's just a criticism more about the community than anything else, but I just think it was worth mentioning anyways. Now let's move on to the map-specific stuff, starting off with Terminus, as I feel like there's a little bit less to kind of talk about here. At first, the map can feel very grandiose and adventurous, and I really like that, but once that honeymoon phase runs away and the wool kind of comes off your eyes, you kind of go, map kind of feels a little barren. That's owed in large part to the fact that a lot of that bottom layer is just water, not really areas that you're going to be playing in. It's kind of being areas that you will traverse between. And I do like that system. On one hand, I think it bolsters that adventurous tone, but on the other, it does lead to a little bit too much downtime, and it can just kind of make the map feel a little empty in some cases, especially like large distances between each island. That's just me though. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the parts between Nathan's fight in the Easter egg and the final boss fight are just, honestly, not good. It is not good at all. You do a small little holdout, which isn't really hard to do at all, and then you hold F on two node connectors, two node connector spots. You bring those and you hold F on it. And then you go and grab a hacking device, and then you go and hold F on 3 buoys. And then, get this, you're not going to believe what happens next. You go into the biolab and hold F on 3 bombs to defuse them. Now that is gameplay, baby. Holding F for a prolonged period of time, that sure is engaging. Good, Zooey mama. There's so much they could have added to just at least make these somewhat engaging, and I sincerely hope that if we're gonna do that again, Treyarch, let's either keep it to like 1 step maybe, or maybe make it so that you have to do it in a certain order so that there's a little bit of thinking to it. I don't know. It's just an idea. It's just an idea. Now, admittedly, the bomb defusal part can be pretty stressful in solo, but there are so many get out of jail free cards that you can use, and it also saves the progress that you were doing when it came to defusing it. So like, I don't know. I just find all the steps between Nathan's fight and the boss fight really boring and really lame. And I sincerely hope that we can get some better steps, maybe some more gameplay puzzles, for the love of God, going forward. Now let's go ahead and talk about Liberty Falls. Starting off with, at least a positive note, the cutscene for this map that was released way back when that featured Richtofen is awesome. It's one of the coolest trailers I think we've ever gotten for a zombies map, if I'm being honest. However, the map has really nothing to do with that, like at all. The map really doesn't do anything with that. It's a little confusing, in all honesty. Like, it features Blanchard, who was in that trailer for like 3 seconds, like literally. And they mention the mansion, or at least he mentions the mansion a couple times. That was from the trailer, but you never go there, and you never see like the underground area. It's really confusing, and that's compounded by the main Easter egg. I'm gonna be honest, I came in with some really low expectations, and I still kind of left a little disappointed. I don't care at all about this Panos guy. I don't think the game did nearly enough for me to care about this Panos guy. I'm like only slightly interested to see in what he's gonna be doing going forward and how that's gonna impact our characters, but like that's it. Like, I'm talking a tiny amount. It doesn't feature any of the mansion or this underground area, and this is partially on Treyarch, who kind of like set it up as like, this is gonna be the epic thing that will set this map apart and give it that personality that everyone was kind of complaining about from COD Next, and it just didn't. I've gotten more use out of doing this Easter egg to grind the Nebula camo and like the elite zombie kills than just actually doing it. And that is a really big problem. Like I said, I came in with pretty low expectations, and it still managed to kind of disappoint me. And honestly, beyond just weapon camo grinding, for me, it's just too simple a map to warrant much replaying. Now that I have Nebula, unless I have to play Liberty Falls, or like maybe there's an event going on like Jingle Hells, for example, I do not see myself playing this map all that much ever again. I'm happy for players who don't really care too much about zombies and just want to load in and have a good time. That map is there for them, and they can enjoy it. Oh my god. Jesus. I'm drinking an energy drink to get me through this, I'm not gonna lie, and that's probably why I'm burping so much. But anyways, yeah, Liberty Falls, it's just kind of just really too boring after a while. It gives me that Kino der Toten vibe, where I'm just really bored by it. And finally, to round out the bad stuff here, just a couple little things similar to the good section. Starting off, ironically enough, with the save and quit feature. While I think it is awesome that it's in the game, for some reason, sometimes when you load back into that match, it is extremely laggy. I mean, you guys are looking at the gameplay. It may not look like all that bad, but to me, it felt like I was playing on like 800 milliseconds of ping. I was just teleporting all over the place. My movements wouldn't happen. I'd be hitting left click to, swing the power drill, and it just wouldn't swing. Oh, it was so frustrating. And honestly, that was the first time it had ever happened to me, admittedly, but I'd seen a lot of people online complaining about this as well, so I figured it was probably worth mentioning. Another thing that maybe might just be a me thing, honestly, I think it's just a byproduct of being always online, which is a problem in and of itself, is hit detection can be really weird, especially with armored zombies. Like, I'll shred the armor off the zombie from, like, I don't know, the chest up, including the helmet, because I'm trying to hit headshots, and then I'll watch my bullets hit them. I'll watch blood come out of the zombie, and nothing happens. I just waste bullets shooting the zombie that should have been dying, but the bullets just don't hit, so I have to stop shooting and then shoot again, and then I kill him. Again, it's kind of hard to describe, and I'm not even sure if I have gameplay to show it, but it becomes so frustrating when you notice it. And same thing kind of goes for this as well. These things kind of go hand in hand. You know how back in the day when World at War was being created, the glitch that ended up happening when you shot off a zombie's head and they would still walk around, and they're like, that was a happy accident, we'll include that, and it was a staple for every zombies mode going forward. Yeah, somehow they managed to screw that up in this game, where you'll shoot the zombie's head off and its hitbox won't be there because it's gone, but the actual head model is still on the zombie. That is also really frustrating, and it leads me to thinking, okay, is it hit detection, or is the zombie actually dying? Because I don't know. It's annoying, but again, it's like a little thing, hence why it's in the little things section. And that's going to go ahead and round out the bad stuff for this video. Again, not too much, but I think it was really worth going a little bit deeper into some of that bad stuff and how I was hoping that they might fix it, as criticism is incredibly important, and how you deliver it is also incredibly important. And I think it's worth trying to give them some constructive criticism going forward. And finally, we're on to the final section of the video, which I'm probably just going to title like wishes or something, like things I wish to see going forward here with the zombies mode. And having seen Season 1 Reloaded, my wishes are like possibly coming true, admittedly, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So first and foremost, Newton's cookbook. Now, I don't see this happening maybe anytime soon, but sometime during this game's life cycle, I would love to see Newton's cookbook or a Newton's cookbook-like feature make its way into this game, because as funny as it is to have a bunch of rare Gobblegums and like 5 raindrops, I would much prefer to maybe have the option to get rid of some of those rare Gobblegums that I probably don't see myself using that much, and instead exchange them for one legendary or ultra tier Gobblegum. That would be super useful, super helpful, and they might do it, I don't know, it might disincentivize players from going to the shop though, so we'll just have to wait and see how Activision treats that. As well as that, I want to see more zombie-specific modes. Now, we are getting Jingle Hells, which is awesome, and we'll talk more about that here in a second, but I'm thinking like actual game modes like, I don't know, Grief, or Turned, or, you know that Meat mode? Okay, hold on. The canceled mode from Black Ops 2 Zombies that was called Meat? I don't know. It might just be worth, I don't know, experimenting with it. You already are just so vastly different from the old games that you may as well just kind of just ride with it. And I feel like Grief would especially make sense in this more Warzone-ified version of Zombies where players have health. Who cares? Spawn each one on either side of the map and have them go to town. I think that would be a lot of fun. But again, that's just me. And I really hope going forward that we continue to see stuff that aren't just limited time modes for like a season, and more like rotated in weekly. Like maybe you get to play Grief for 1 week and it gives like 1.25 times the XP. Or the next week the featured mode is like Turned, and vice versa. It gives you a weekly reason to come back and play for a little bit. As well as that, I would like to see potentially the ability to unlock the map-specific Pack-a-Punch camos by doing Easter eggs, and honestly just incentivizing reasons to replay those Easter eggs, because as it stands right now, it's worth playing them once, maybe twice, to get the rewards, which I do appreciate. We do have Easter egg specific rewards, such as weapon skins, weapon blueprints like the one for the ray gun, or character skins. I like that quite a lot, but I think that there should be some more incentives to replay them. So I think a perfect way to do it would just to include the option to unlock the map-specific Pack-a-Punch camo, and that can be done by completing 3 different runs on each map's Easter egg under different variations. So, for example, let's say you complete either the map's Easter egg just straight up, you get that map-specific Tier 1 Pack-a-Punch unlocked. Then, let's say you complete that map-specific Easter egg by doing it in less than X amount of time. Players then would be able to unlock Pack-a-Punch Tier 2 for all their weapons. And then let's say, let's say they complete the map-specific Easter egg in less time and with 4 perks or less. That challenge there creates an incentive to unlock new things, to replay the modes. And with those different parameters put in place, it will actually add a bit of challenge to the mode alongside that replayability. And I don't think it's that big of a stretch to include stuff like that. I don't think that would be hurting Activision's bottom line or anything like that. So I really do hope that we continue to see incentives to replay these Easter eggs, and honestly just incentives to continue to replay week by week and kind of just fully embrace the live service model, which leads me perfectly into the final point. Let's embrace the fact that you are a live service game. Now, I give Cold War Zombies a pass as it was also technically a live service game. However, it was okay, right? They were also working far from behind. Now, they did include the Outbreak mode and tons of updates for that and everything, and I think they did a pretty damn good job, all things considered. But there was never a incentive to come back week by week, which I think is like the best way to describe the best live service games, is they usually offer something to do week in, week out that rewards the player. And I think the easiest way you could do that is copy Destiny 2. Now in Destiny 2, in case you haven't played it, there are these things called strikes, which are basically long missions that you can do with your friends, and at the end of it, you kill a boss, and you get some loot. It's a looter shooter after all. However, there are variations of these strikes that rotate in week by week called Nightfall strikes. At least they were back when I played. I don't know if they've changed that or not since I played last, but these Nightfall strikes essentially would have different gameplay modifiers attached to them to make the game harder. And once you completed that, you would usually get higher tier loot as a result. And you could do that once a week, and it was just an incentive to come back and play week by week. And that's not even including the raids in that game, which I would say are probably more akin to the zombies quests than strikes, but that's beyond the point. Imagine for a second they do what they're doing with the Jingle Hells right now, which is essentially kind of what I'm describing. They have different modifiers put into place on Liberty Falls to make the game harder. They have like these frozen rounds. There's no armory or workbench. You have to go and scavenge stuff. There's different things in the environment for you to find and interact with to upgrade your character, upgrade your kit. And the main quest on that map with Jingle Hells is active. You can play it with those parameters put in place, but there's no unique rewards for doing it. And when I heard that, I was like, why? Why are there no unique rewards for doing that? I don't get it. It seems like a slam dunk easy mode, but at least the foundation is there to do what I'm asking, which is just imagine every single week there's a new map rotated in with different parameters put in place. And with those parameters put in place, the Easter egg is active, and if you are able to complete the Easter egg, you are given XP, Gobblegum, and/or a character skin, weapon skin, or blueprint. Like, that would be so cool, and it would give us an incentive to not only replay these Easter eggs that they spend a lot of time doing, but it would also reward the players. And I swear to God, if they do this system, but they make it so, oh, you unlock an emblem, or you unlock a spray, or you unlock a calling card. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. They want things they can use in game. And thankfully, I didn't even mention this earlier, but you can play in third person. That's a lot of fun. It's actually really fun to play in third person in this game. So it actually makes character skins in zombies well worth it to unlock as well. I don't think I'm asking for much. I'm not asking you to part the red fucking sea here. I'm just asking for a reason to play week in, week out, and more importantly, to re-engage with these Easter eggs beyond just the fact that their boss fight is fun, or no reason at all for Liberty Falls. I'm sorry, that was mean. It's right there. You guys are so close. You are so close to just like hitting the nail on the head and only getting better and better. I sincerely hope, with tears figuratively rolling down my face, that Treyarch can actually fully embrace this live service model. They are clearly so far ahead with development. This is the first time we're getting a new map within the same year that the game released. Usually we have to wait until the start of the next year to get a new map. This is the first time we've gotten a new zombies map in December. This is unheard of. They clearly are way ahead of schedule this time. They've gotten things under control. It's right there. And I really, really hope they can actually commit to the fact that they are a live service game. Whew, man, oh man, I'm gonna be honest. I'm standing recording this and I am fucking sweating. It is hot in my room, which is crazy because it's like 30 degrees where I live and I don't get it. But enough rambling. That's it. That's all I got for you guys. So ultimately, I guess to just round this whole thing out, while I definitely do have some criticisms, it is worth pointing out that I've put like 6.5 days into this game already. I love it. I'm having a genuine blast playing this game, and it's something that I've been playing almost every single day since it's come out, and I do not regret it in the slightest. It has been so much fun. This is easily the best COD Zombies we've gotten in a while. Honestly, could very well be considered to be the greatest launch of any Zombies game. We'll just kind of have to wait and see, though, how they continue to go and how they continue to formulate this pretty damn good foundation, and if they can fix some of the issues that myself and the community has been having. But besides that, that is pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching if you gotten to this point of the video. I'm sure it's been a long time. I'm recording. It's been an hour and 3 minutes. I don't know how much I'm going to edit it down, but man, oh man, I'm tired. And I've been meaning to make this video for a while, so I'm glad that I finally was able to just make it. And I really do hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys want to see more videos like this, make sure to let me know. I promise I'm not going to disappear again. I'm here to stay. I want to make more content, especially on this game. And with the swath of new games coming out next year, I fully intend to stick around. So I hope you guys will stick around with me too. But anyways, thank you so much for watching again. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like and subscribe and comment down below what you want to see next. And as always, I'll see you later. Peace.